Well, thanks for coming to Minnesota and doing this, running for Wisconsin's 96th Assembly District against Loren Oldenburg. So we'll start off. First question, what are your priorities if elected? What would Tara Johnson do if she was in Assembly?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of work to be done in Madison. It starts with economic issues, including trying to figure out ways to make housing, childcare, transportation more affordable. It includes making sure that we are fully funding and supporting public education. Some of the work to be done is making sure that reproductive freedoms are codified and clearly stated in law. It means that we are doing work to protect natural resources, clean air, clean water, protecting the land, and in a district like the 96th that is a beautiful district, there are a lot of conservation concerns, a lot of environmental concerns as it relates to protecting the very fragile earth and waterways in the 96th Assembly District. Those are top of mind, and what I'm hearing at doors from folks.
Yeah, well, let's get into the conservation efforts. The incumbent was a co-sponsor for Senate Bill 222. It created a pre-disaster flood resilience grant program. I had the opportunity to watch Governor Evers sign that into law. This had support by both sides, including Senator Brad Pfaff and Jill Billings. They were both co-authors. I guess the district is prone to flooding. So Tara, what are some of your thoughts, maybe some legislation that you would bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good start. I think I agree, a good piece of legislation. I think the reality is that these issues have been neglected for a long time. That is a small step in the right direction after a long history of the state legislature really ignoring and neglecting conservation issues. Specifically in the 96th, Vernon County, which is about half of the district in terms of voting population, the county board there has had to make some really, really tough decisions about the decommissioning of earthen dams. Vernon County is home to 22 of those earthen dams, and they were built in the 50s and 60s, and they were really good flood mitigation devices or structures, but they have long outlived their life and their life expectancy, and the county is really having, again, to make some tough decisions about that as it relates to decommissioning. And I think that the state has an obligation to help support the county in the work that they are doing with the federal government who built those structures to make sure that there are new ways to protect against flooding events. And we know that those are coming much more rapidly and regularly. And so there needs to be more legislation to put state funding into protecting not just Vernon County, but the whole state, and addressing in real time climate change issues that we are all dealing with.
And you had mentioned the last time that we had spoke, Tara, that you had been kind of in conversation with the Vernon County Board. Do those conversations continue?
Yes, they continue to this day. And there are, again, the county board work is work that I know from my experience, 20 years on the La Crosse County Board, and it is very much where the rubber hits the road on these kinds of issues. So even though the federal government built those earthen dams, for example, in Vernon County, and there are a couple in La Crosse County also, and some in Monroe County, they were done. They built them. It was a great thing. They worked for decades, and now the federal government is not, they're helping with the decommissioning, paying for it, but the county still has to put significant amounts of money to complete the decommissioning work, and then what, right? So I think that the state needs to be a strong partner in helping local government and partnering with the federal government to make sure that there are protections for the land, for the waterways in Vernon County and throughout Wisconsin.
And we talked last time as well about education, K through 12 education, and we continuously see a number of schools in the Coulee region, in the 96th, that continuously have to go to referendum, whether it's operational or capital. And I'm just wondering, if elected, what are your plans for pre-K through 12 education on the western side of the state?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's statewide. I think we as a state have really slipped backward in how we support public education K-12 through the university system, quite frankly. But as it relates specifically to K-12, there needs to be a recommitment to investing resources from the state in public education. This is a contrast point definitely in the 96th race, where it should be really clear to voters that the incumbent, as part of the Republican majority, has voted, first of all, consistently with Robin Vos and leadership. There may be 3 times when he voted other than with leadership. And on K-12 education, it's not just the investment in the public school system, but it is continuously allowing voucher monies to be taken away from public education. And I believe that that is wrong, and we need to dismantle that system.
Governor Evers released a number on the state surplus. I believe it was yesterday. $4.6 billion. That's a lot. Your thoughts, if elected, on how that should be used?
Yeah, I hear this, maybe it's because of the news cycle, Chandler, but I hear this on doors. I've heard this on doors the past couple of days. I remember a guy saying, whatever you do, don't send me a $118 check, because it's not going to make a hill of beans difference, right? And so I think that money, we should be very strategic and thoughtful in how we spend surplus money in general. And again, this is a place where my county government experience comes into play, because La Crosse County was very fiscally healthy, had very low tax rates, had high bond ratings. When we needed to borrow, we could do that, and solid reserves. In the case of the state surplus, I think that we should be looking at some of those issues we just talked about, especially public education, and reinvesting more money into K-12 through technical college, through university system. But also, I think we've had the opportunity to see an influx of dollars come in through COVID-related programs at the federal level, right? There were big investments that came in to Wisconsin and all states. And I think that what the state should be doing is looking at what worked. So the Main Street, the Bounce Back program that helped invest $10,000 to local businesses, Main Street businesses, is a good example of how that infusion of money can make a ripple positive impact on the economy of the state, on main streets in the state. I think of Viroqua right away when I think of that. And so I think what the state needs to do with the surplus is look at proven, effective programs that have worked. And I think we have some really good models of that from the infusion of federal dollars that came in through COVID monies.
My final question, the ballot has a referendum question that changes some wording on the state constitution on the upcoming election. Your thoughts on that, Tara?
Yeah, again, I'm going to draw on my local experience and local government experience. The Republican legislature has decided that referendum questions are bad and shouldn't be allowed at the local level. But they have been quick to pound through. They tried to pound through a couple in the August cycle. They're trying to pound through one in this cycle. I will be voting no, because I think that it is a disruption of the balance of powers in the state. And I think that a no vote helps defend democracy and is a message that we are not going to stand for that.
Is there anything maybe I didn't ask that you would like to mention?
At this stage of the game, I really want to encourage people to vote, right? Like, it is important that everyone is participating in democracy and getting out to vote. And I think that the fair maps, we haven't talked about that in this conversation, but I think that the new maps give hope to every Wisconsinite, particularly in the 96th, because this map changed very dramatically. I hope that the new maps are more incentive to get out and vote and elect people who share their values and really call for leaders and elected officials to do the work that needs to be done in Madison, because there is a long list of work to do. That is my background, is getting things done, and that's what I will do when I get elected and go to Madison.
Tara, thank you very much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.